Hello and welcome to Revved Up, ladies and gentlemen. So, as you can tell, there's no intro music going on right now. There's no intro going on right now. We are straight into this, and we're doing this the way God wanted it or something. I don't know. But in case you're wondering why I sounded so panicked in my voice, so this is the second take, if you will, of recording this episode. And while I was recording and getting through the intro, my screen went black. Like out of nowhere, no warning, no anticipation, just went black. And then my screen, well, not mainly my screen, but like the OBS, which is what we use to record these episodes, was literally freaking out. And apparently, my microphone cord, which is used to, of course, plug into my microphone so you guys could hear me talk, just said, this laptop or computer does not recognize this USB port, even though I've literally have used the same USB port for God knows how long. Like, out of nowhere, too. Like, while I was talking, I don't even know if I got like 5 minutes into the episode before that happened. That just absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. But yeah, so back with Revved Up. Hopefully we can continue recording this episode in case something does indeed spill over or something like that. God only knows, but hopefully not. But yeah, so we're back after a little bit of a week hiatus. It's once again just me by myself recording this episode, and I'm so sorry. Like I just cannot believe I'm still like that may be up there with the weirdest technical failure that this show has ever seen before. It might genuinely be up there. But anyways, so yeah, we're back after a little bit of a week hiatus, which wasn't originally the plan. We were gonna have a Phoenix recap episode last week, but school got in the way for me. Unfortunately, there was just more important things that I needed to deal with at the time. It was just a midterm. There was a big midterm exam for one of my classes, and I just like the good student that I am. I did everything that I can to make sure that I studied hard for it, and I had the time laid out for me to go and try and pass it. And I ultimately did, which is a good thing. So, as always, hard work pays off at the end of the day. But just, yeah, so that's the main reason why we didn't have one last week. But we're well past that point now, and we're back, and we'll move forward. We'll move forward. So, but yeah, just, God, I still can't believe it's really hard to describe it too. I mean, I gave you like a good like basis, like a good like solid foundation of like what it could have looked like, but just unreal. So moving forward now, Las Vegas was going to be one of our main talking points of this weekend. We'll have more on Denny Hamlin's emotional 61st career NASCAR Cup Series win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll have more on some pretty interesting tempers as well from both the O'Reilly and Cup race. Mainly speaking, Ross Chastain versus Daniel Suarez after the race when they had their run-in on the track. So, and we also have more news on a driver from the Truck Series being suspended after recent comments on a live stream. We have Darlington this weekend, and we'll just discuss a little bit about that stuff and more on today's episode. So let's get started. Las Vegas was this past weekend, the fifth race of the Cup Series schedule, but we had to go in chronological order. No Truck Series race at Las Vegas for the spring this time around. I can definitely see, of course, the main reason why they do that is because the Truck Series, as we all know, there have been a lot of recent discussions of that series and just, the costs that have been going up for them and just how you try to make things as affordable as possible. So one less trip on the West Coast definitely, I would say, remedies the issue. Now, I'm not like a big time insider. I don't know like what exactly the type of money a team like Thor Sport, makes from something like that. So I don't know. I'm just kind of making my best educated guess here as to why that they did that. But yeah. But we did have the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race on Saturday night, and we had the Cup Series race on Sunday. Let's start off with the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. And my notifications are going off right now, so if you heard that, I do indeed apologize. Probably an email of some sort. I have no clue. But anyways, Kyle Larson ended up winning the race for the 88 car of Junior Motorsports. Just wasn't really the most dominant car of the entire day. I mean, he was up inside the top 5 and top 10. But it wasn't until like the late stages of stage 3 where things really started to get going for that team. But we did have some other unique drivers up at the front. Last year's Spring Vegas winner Justin Allgaier, who was my pick to win, got out to a very early lead. Taylor Gray in the 54 was up there as well. Sheldon Creed, which we'll get into those two later on. And it was pretty much the Justin Allgaier show from the jump, which is not a bad thing. Obviously, I'm not implying that, but just, going into this race with how good Allgaier is at Las Vegas and, the dominance that he had there last year, you just kind of figured that he was going to be the man to beat going into Saturday. And, partially true. But then the big incident in this race that really transpired was between both Taylor Gray and Sheldon Creed late in stage 3, which actually kind of basically set up the ending of the race. Corey Day in the 17 car was leading as well. I can't believe I brushed over Corey Day, which is kind of shocking that I did, because so far in 5 weeks, there's been at least 3 times where he's gotten himself into some treacherous waters, but he was doing good at Las Vegas. But it was a 3-car battle between Day, Gray, and Creed. Going into turn 3, Taylor Gray knows that Sheldon Creed has a run coming. He's going to try to take it to the inside to try to pass him on the inside through 3 and 4, even though if that's not really the preferred line, but regardless. And then Gray tries to go down with him and try to basically block him and cut the air off him, but Creed stuck the nose out a little bit too far. But then again, it's really not his job to lift in that circumstance, because basic race knowledge. And Gray tries to block down. They make contact with each other. Gray gets a little bit loose, looks like he's going to save it for a minute, but then gets up into the outside wall and causing a lot of rear and front end damage to his car, pretty much ending his day and pretty much ending a shot of him winning Las Vegas. Now, Gray was frustrated, and you know what? Part of me is saying that's reasonably, the frustration is a little bit reasonable, because when you have a fast car like that and you're running second and you're trying to go for the win, try to battle it out with Corey Day, ending your race like that could definitely be very, very frustrating on the part of a driver like that. So I'm not faulting him for that, but the main topic is not about that. Sheldon Creed did come over the radio and said, listen, I didn't really mean to hit the 54 like that. I didn't mean to get him loose, but you can only block so many times. And then people will start really getting impatient with you, which of course that's not the exact quote that Sheldon Creed said, but that's what he did say, like, oh, well, you can only block so many times. That's pretty much the basis of it. So, when I look at a situation like this, I try to always understand both sides, because I feel like there could be a little bit of truth to both sides. Because, yes, did Taylor Gray look like he made a bad block? Yes. Could you make the argument that Sheldon Creed could have lifted a little bit? Sure, but that at the end of the day, it's not his job to lift. He's going into 3 with a little bit of momentum, and I think Taylor Gray should have realized that better than anybody in the field, just like any other driver. But I can understand why Gray would be a little bit upset at Creed. And he was visibly upset even before he got out of the car, where he was still able to keep the car going around under caution. And then when he was making like a lap around the apron to try to go find the 00, he basically rode around with him along the side of like the bottom of the apron of the track, basically just saying, hey, I'm going to remember that. And I think the CW broadcast even mentioned that he gave him the number 1 signal, which anybody in any part of this world should know what that means. But yeah, so understandably frustrated. But again, I can understand both sides of the argument, and I really don't have a dog in this fight, honestly. Not because of like I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer. It's just because it's one of the trickiest things, because like I said, it's one of those tricky scenarios is what I'm trying to get at here. But anyways, or did I say any race? Anyways, the race went on under green, with the 88 fighting his way back up to the front and Kyle Larson securing his first O'Reilly Series win of the 2026 season. He had a couple last year as well, so it's his first one of the season, driving the 88 car for Junior Motorsports, in which he will actually be back in the 88 car for JRM this upcoming weekend at Darlington Raceway. But he wasn't originally planned to be in that seat, simply because of the fact that before our last episode, before Phoenix took place, the day after it was published, it was announced that driver of the number 48 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, Alex Bowman, I guess this is where we're getting into this topic, Alex Bowman was diagnosed with vertigo. Now, if you don't know exactly what vertigo is, or you've heard of it, but you don't know exactly what it does, vertigo is basically a spinning sensation that goes on, in your head, essentially. But the main definition, at least according to Google, a lot of people are like, oh, you're using Google, whatever. Vertigo is a sensation of spinning or swaying, typically caused by inner ear problems like BPPV or Meniere's disease or brain issues. Symptoms include dizziness, imbalance, nausea, and rapid eye movements. While often brief, episodes can last hours or days, or occasionally causing complications like falls. So, when you're experiencing symptoms like that, of course, the last thing that you want to do is operate any sort of motor vehicle, let alone a race car that goes almost 200 miles per hour. So very scary. And as someone who has had vertigo before, or at least has had symptoms of vertigo, it is one of the weirdest things imaginable. Now, I've never gotten nauseous from it per se, but I have had that weird dizziness where, like, you feel like you're going to faint, but you're still kind of there. It's extremely weird, but it's you notice it. You notice it 100%. And unfortunately, Alex Bowman was a victim of it. And because of that, he wasn't able to race at Phoenix or Las Vegas. Both Phoenix and Las Vegas, that 48 car was filled by both Anthony Alfredo, who is the sim driver for Hendrick Motorsports, and, of course, as we mentioned, Justin Allgaier, full-time driver in the O'Reilly Series. And it was also announced about a day ago of this recording that Alex Bowman will miss at least the next 3 races starting this upcoming weekend at Darlington, and Justin Allgaier will be racing those races starting at Darlington. I believe, I forget I don't know why I keep forgetting how the schedule goes here, but he'll miss Darlington, Martinsville, and Bristol at the very least. And the next race after that would be at Kansas Speedway the week after on April 19th. So we had heard rumors that his recovery time was very vague, and I even heard rumors saying that we wouldn't probably see him until April, and it's looking like that it's trending. It's definitely trending in that direction, because if he's missing up until Bristol, um, then he won't be back at the very least until like April 19th, because that's when Kansas is scheduled, and April 12th is when the Food City 500 at Bristol takes place. So very tough stuff. I mean, very difficult situation for a guy who, this, as I really hate to say it, this is not Alex Bowman's first rodeo with injuries. You know, 2022, of course, was one of the bigger ones. 2022, you know, late in the season at Texas, had a crash that gave him a concussion. Didn't race until like the season finale of that year, so he missed a bit of time. And then races about 10 races in 2023, then has a sprint car race where he gets into a bad wreck and has a back injury, and he misses several races and really doesn't perform quite the same afterwards after that. Then 2024, you have your very first fully healthy season, and you win a race. You know, you think, okay, this is Alex Bowman trending in the right direction. 2025, another healthy season, didn't get the victory lane, but they didn't have an injury whatsoever. And then after 3 races in the 2026, after COTA, Alex Bowman has not stepped foot in the car since then, and we can only hope that we will see him in the race car sometime in the not so distant future. But of course, vertigo, when it comes to recovery time, it's one of those, and I'm not trying to say that this is career ending or anything like that, of course, but it could definitely vary. Recovery time definitely varies. It could be weeks to up to a month, maybe, depending on how bad it is. I'm not going to speculate if this had anything to do with him back at Circuit of the Americas when he had to leave the race early. I'm not going to speculate if that was the cause of it, because you never really know, of course, until you really get until you really realize that something is drastically wrong, and then you have to get up and say, okay, I need to go to, you know, an ER, a doctor or something, because this is not good. So, but yeah, all the best to Alex Bowman in his recovery time. We hope to see him back at the racetrack in any sort of capacity too. I mean, he doesn't even have to be in a car. He just has to be. If he's sitting on top of a pit box at Darlington, I'd be happy to see that. But you know, just this sucks with on top of the fact, and I hate to bring this up too, that this is also a contract year for Alex Bowman, which I don't think this will have any impact on if he gets re-signed by Hendrick. I don't honestly think that at all. This is literally me speaking from the heart here. I think Alex Bowman will definitely stay with Hendrick for at least a couple more years, so I'm not worried about that, but just the sooner he could get into a race car and just, you know, taking his time with recovery, that's all we really, really care about. So prayers up to the 48 of Alex Bowman. We hope to see you at the track soon. But anyways, back to the weekend recap. The Cup Series race, the Pennzoil 400 on FS1, which got 2.7 million viewers, down right around 3 to 8% from 3.01 million viewers. Again, stop broadcasting races on cable. It's clearly not working. Why are we doing it? But anyways, I saw a lot of people say that they really didn't like this race, and I can't really understand why. I thought it was a fine, normal, like, 1.5-mile race for the most part. I thought it was fine. I don't know why people listen, I understand that we've had a very tremendous start to the season with just racing in the first 3 races and all that. But not every race is going to be a barn burner. You know what I mean? Not every race is going to be a barn burner. And I thought the race was fine. Like, I'm not saying it's race of the year or anything. I'm not saying that this is a race that I would totally go back and watch, but it was fine. It was fine. I give it like a 7.5. It's fine. Like, it's an average 1.5 mile race. But anyways, going into this weekend, Joe Gibbs Racing had a pretty decent amount of momentum. Obviously, they came up short to winning at Phoenix the previous week with Christopher Bell mainly being the runner-up to Ryan Blaney that race. But when you saw the qualifying results of who was going to be starting up front of Bell, Hamlin, and Gibbs, and Chase Briscoe had a little bit of a struggle in qualifying, but we kind of, you get the point. So when you saw the top 3 of qualifying, you're thinking, "Oh, this could be a JGR, runaway day here." And at first, it looked to be the case, but then you had Hendrick Chevy such as Kyle Larson and William Byron up there in the mix that were trying to lead the way and stuff like that. Christopher Bell was able to get the stage 1 victory, which still to this day, Christopher Bell has 13 career Cup Series wins, but he won the pole for Las Vegas. He has never won a race from starting on the pole, and that still holds true to this very day. Now, that could very well end later on the season when Bell does win a pole and wins that very exact same race, but that streak continues for the time being. But the Gibbs cars showed their strength early. Denny Hamlin, the last time that he had went to this racetrack, he had won to advance himself into the championship round last year, but it was also the last time that his late father got to see him win, and you could tell that emotions were kind of running a little bit high for Hamlin going into this weekend, because it just meant a lot. It really meant a lot. It was something that I had really looked had we had an episode this last week, that's something that I definitely would have brought up, because it was just it was something that I really just tugged on my heartstrings, if you will, and I genuinely mean that too. Like, it's something that I really, it was just emotional, is what I'm trying to say. But the Gibbs had a dominant stage 1, but coming down to pit stops, this was a big moment, and it was really going to test to see how strong the Gibbs cars were going to be moving back up through the field. But after stage 1, when all the teams went down pit road, to get 4 fresh tires and try to restart the race and stuff like that, both the Gibbs cars of Denny Hamlin and Ty Gibbs were both speeding on pit road, so they were going to be sent to the tail end of the field. And now you're thinking to yourself, oh man, this is going to be interesting to see how good those cars will be in traffic instead of clean air, and how good they will be coming up through the field. Well, let's just say both Hamlin and Gibbs spent the rest of stage 2 crawling their way back up to the field, and it was worth it. Denny was as high as 7th at the end of stage 2, which stage 2 kind of saw a little bit of a change into the tide between Gibbs and Hendrick. We saw Larson lead a decent amount, including William Byron as well. Chase Elliott was up there in the mix as well, but it was William Byron who ended up getting, I believe this is Byron's first stage win of the season. So big points for the 24 team right there. But yeah, big points for William Byron. But when you saw Denny Hamlin crawl his way back up to the field, you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh man, this is going to be good to see how he handles stage 3. And stage 3, I think Denny Hamlin really did what he needed to do throughout the whole entire race. Just play it smart, make his way through traffic, and he was able to get himself back up front to the lead, and was able to basically never surrender it, even through green flag pit stops and stuff like that. It was, JGR trying, all 4 JGR cars inside the top 10 for this race. The 2311 cars had speed as well. Bubba Wallace was up there, but Tyler Reddick was inside the top 10, but he kind of faded towards the end. Reddick was actually my pick to win this race, and I low-key regret that pick. But anyways, regardless, Denny Hamlin was able to capture the win after a little bit of I wouldn't say a battle, but during the last 5 laps of the race, Chase Elliott, another Hendrick car, was up there in second. He was actually cutting into Denny Hamlin's lap times, and you can only imagine had it been 10 more laps after the white flag, had there been another 10 more laps, you could probably imagine that Chase Elliott could have pounced on Hamlin and made a pass for the win. But ultimately, that is not the case. For Denny Hamlin, it is his 61st career win in the NASCAR Cup Series. He is closing in on 9th on the all-time win list against a driver who's still currently in the Cup Series, Kyle Busch, who currently sits 9th all-time at 63 career Cup Series wins. And if you ask me, if I were to make a prediction right now, today, as of recording this episode, today is, or when you guys will see it, it'll be the 19th, but today is March 18th, 2026. My revved up bold prediction right now is that Denny Hamlin will tie Kyle Busch in wins by the time we get to Pocono. I think Denny Hamlin will get 2 more wins, but by the time we get to Pocono. I don't think that's insane. I don't believe that's an insane thing to say. And I'm very curious to see who disagrees with me on that. But of course, Hamlin had his family there with him, his mother as well, who was involved in that house fire during the off season, and she's made great stride to recover as well. And just very emotional moment from top to bottom. And just Denny Hamlin, over the last few months, I think has really started to turn into what we like to call the people's champ. Sure, there are people out there that still don't like Denny Hamlin, but I feel like he's earned a lot more respect as time has passed on as of late compared to what he did probably 3 to 4 years ago. Because 3 to 4 years ago, this conversation that we're having right now is drastically different. And it's really heartwarming to see that while you don't have to like Hamlin, I think he's a guy that definitely warrants a lot of respect, because this guy has been through so many highs and lows in his career, and he's done everything except win a championship, but he keeps chugging along. And this past offseason, this was the closest we had gotten to seeing Denny Hamlin announcing to hanging it up and retiring. But he wanted to honor his remaining time with Joe Gibbs, and he even said that until maybe a week or two ago, I wasn't fully mentally prepared to get into a car because, with losing the championship in a very unfair way almost, and, having that tragedy during the off season, I mean, how could you go on? You feel mentally, you just I can never imagine the mental state that someone has to go through that. And Denny Hamlin, I'm sure if I was able to talk to him right now, I can only imagine what he would say about the mental toll that it takes on someone like that. But congrats to Hamlin. Joe Gibbs Racing's first win of the 2026 season. And Toyota has now won 4 out of the 5 races to begin the year. The only non-Toyota, of course, to win was Ryan Blaney with Ford and Team Penske last week. So I'll be interested to see how far Toyota goes this year. Because Chevy, while I think Chevrolet will get the victory lane this year, of course, they have a new nose body, which That's also something that I wanted to bring up because during the early stages of the race, Mike Joy, lead commentator for Fox Sports, made a comment saying that Chevrolet and some of their dealership owners recently had their yearly meetings of plans of what the future is going to look like, especially for the sport of NASCAR. And they said that and Mike Joy basically teased that a new Chevrolet body, not this one, the next one, is currently in the works right now, and we might see it in not so distant future. But as of right now, Chevrolet, little bit of a struggling start to the year, I think, but I don't expect it to go on for a very long time, if that makes any sense. So, but yeah, Toyota so far very dominant to start the 2026 season. Now moving on from Las Vegas, it's time to take a look at the weekly podcast points. If you're following along with us, we make race picks every single week, and we always do points along with them. So going after Las Vegas, I still lead, but with 28 points. However, though, I only lead by 1 point. Adam's pick, who was William Byron, ended up finishing third, so he went from 17 to 27, and my pick, Tyler Reddick, finished 11th, I believe, so he only gave me 1 point. It was below the top 10, and Emma currently remains third, but she gets 5 points after her pick, Chase Briscoe, was picked to win, but Briscoe was able to get him. Briscoe had a very odd start. He qualified 18th and was able to crawl his way up inside the top 10, finishing 7th. Also ran the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race for Joe Gibbs Racing as well. So he was a driver pulling double duty alongside Kyle Larson. But yeah, Emma is awarded 5 points. She now sits at 17. So those are your podcast points going into Las Vegas. But let's look at some of going into Darlington, I should say. Sorry. But let's take a look at some of the notable finishers from the Las Vegas race this past weekend. So, of course, Denny Hamlin is your winner. Chase Elliott second. William Byron third. Christopher Bell, your pole sitter, fourth. Ty Gibbs, 3 straight top 5 finishes for him. He comes home fifth. Chris Buescher, the highest placing Ford. RFK had a little bit of speed today. Finished 6th. Kyle Larson, who led earlier, 7th. Briscoe actually finished 8th. Larson 7th, my bad. Bubba Wallace comes home 9th. And Brad Keselowski, despite qualifying 28th, manages a 10th place finish. So that's your top 10 finish in order. And another correction I wanted to make, Tyler Reddick actually finished 13th, but the point still stands. I only have 1 point to my name. Carson Hocevar, a driver who really wasn't thrilled with qualifying, comes home 22nd. Connor Zilic, who was involved in an incident early in the race, comes home 32nd. SVG comes home 36th. However, though, SVG had a very eventful start to the race because we nearly had a lap 1 spin coming out of turn 4, but he was able to save the race car with the help of the 19 of Briscoe being down below him, so it kept them from spinning out into the infield grass. So those are your notable finishers. Let's take a look at the point standings for the Cup Series as well. We saw a little bit of shifting here and there. Still going in for the 5th week in a row, the 23-11 tandem of Reddick and Wallace still remain the top 2 in points. Ryan Blaney still in 3rd. Denny Hamlin with his first win now is in 4th. Chase Elliott is now 5th in the standings with 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s. Christopher Bell had a little bit of a struggling start in both Daytona and Atlanta, but now has made it up to 6th. Larson 7th. Byron 8th. Chris Buescher 9th. Ty Gibbs 10th. Joey Logano 11th so far. Ryan Preece, my bad. The RFK duo of Brad Keselowski and Ryan Preece are both 12th and 13th respectively. Michael McDowell is 14th. Carson Hocevar 15th. And Shane Van Gisbergen 16th. So if the chase for the championship began today, those would be your 16 drivers moving forward. So that's the points report coming out of Las Vegas this week. But let's get into some weekly news. This one basically just broke out of nowhere, but somebody on Twitter was able to catch it. Craftsman Truck Series driver of the number 10 truck for Colleague Racing, Daniel Dye, was on a live stream with fellow race car driver Brent Cruz, and Daniel Dye was basically just opening card packs and stuff like that. I don't know where exactly the live stream was at, but that's basically what the contents were. And then there was a comment or comments made about IndyCar driver for Team Penske, David Malukas, where Daniel Dye mocked David Malukas in a specific accent that was very offensive, and it eventually caught wind of this, and Colleague Racing and NASCAR have announced that they have officially suspended Daniel Dye indefinitely and will not return to the 10 team this year after 3 races at Daytona, Atlanta, and St. Petersburg. Daniel Dye, who currently has ran multiple seasons in the Truck Series and has ran one full-time season in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Colleague Racing's official statement: Colleague Racing has indefinitely suspended driver Daniel Dye effective immediately after becoming aware today of comments he made on social media. And then Daniel Dye made an apology note afterwards, which I have very interesting opinions on it because of how it's played out. Because he basically pulls a particular card that I wouldn't do because it doesn't help him. So, but the apology goes as this. This is Daniel Dye's quote, or statement, I should say. I want to first apologize to David Malukas. I recently went on the live stream with some friends and made some careless comments. I chose my words poorly, and I understand why it upset people. I'm sorry to anyone who was offended. That's not how I want to represent myself. I have some close friends in the LGBTQ plus community who I would never want to feel less of themselves because of what I said, and that's exactly why I should hold myself to a higher standard. In talking with them, I realized that a true friend would know better than to act that way. I realized that a true friend would know better than to act the way that I did, and for that I need to be a better friend. What I said doesn't reflect how I feel about them or anyone else. I didn't think enough before I spoke. No kidding. And I in no way meant any harm. I know that intention does not erase impact, and I need to do better. I am taking this seriously and working on being more aware and respectful moving forward. I'm sorry to everyone I let down. I am committed to learning from this and better understanding that the impact that my decisions can have on others. That includes educating myself, listening to those affected, and taking meaningful steps to ensure my actions reflect respect and inclusivity going forward. I know I've got a platform and a responsibility I need to use it better. So I've seen a lot of people comment on this saying that, and I can't believe I have to have this conversation again. This is not the first time I've had a conversation on the show. I literally did this back in 2023 when Noah Gragson got suspended. First things first, if you are saying that this move is soft or the world needs to grow thicker skin or something like that, I'm going to remind you guys something here. When you are a race car driver or an athlete and you get sponsorships, brand deals, endorsements, whatever the case may be, it is up to you. It is up to you to make sure you represent that brand well, and to make sure that in doing so, you relay the message back to those companies saying, yep, we made the right move hiring this guy because he represents us so well. He's clean cut. Doesn't do anything wrong. This is not one of those cases, unfortunately, but that's what you are expected to do. Daniel Dye, one of his most prominent sponsors, is racetostopsuicide.com. The black eye that company has now is astounding. And you know what? For a guy who has talked about why that brand is so important to him and why he carries it with him everywhere he goes, you would think he would know better than that. And what a black eye that is for Ram and Mopar too, who have made the return to NASCAR this year in the Truck Series. That's how you represent a manufacturer returning? Really? And listen, I'm sure Daniel Dye will probably get another opportunity in the future. I'm sure he will. You know, regardless if you want to hear that or not, I'm sure he will. But for like I said, for people who say this is soft and this and that, you have freedom of speech. You are not free of consequences. Like, if a company hires people to represent their brand and they see those said employees just running amok and saying hurtful things, then it's that company's going to be looked down upon. And I don't really fully get why people are saying that he didn't do anything wrong. You did do something wrong, dude. Was it the worst thing you could have done? No. Does that make it okay? Also, no. Like, you would, like, being PR trained is something that I believe every driver needs to go through. But even when you do go through that PR training, I feel like there are some things that really slip through the cracks. And I think this is one of those instances. Now, I'm not excusing that, but it does indeed happen. So, I am very disappointed with how he handled himself. I'm not going to say that he's the worst human being on the planet now, but this is not the first time that Daniel Dye has done something controversial either. If you remember, in 2022, he had that felony battery incident where he kicked someone in the groin. Now, while I'm not saying he should be convicted for anything, but, like, this is not the first time that Daniel Dye has had a rocky reputation with handling himself on and off the track. But, you know, just seeing all the comments saying, oh, free speech, you know, is no longer a thing, you know, this, and that. It's like, bro, like, genuinely, like, you can go outside. And I hate talking about this sort of stuff because this is not what we do on this show, but this is a clear lack of intelligence here. This is a clear lack of intelligence. Like, you could go outside right now and say a racial slur. It doesn't mean, like, you could say it, but that doesn't mean you probably won't get your ass kicked for it. Like what? Like, I never understood that logic, but that's something I wanted to talk about. It was big news during this week. The Truck Series will return to Darlington this weekend, and we don't know what the drivers of the 10 truck will look like throughout the rest of the way. The only confirmed thing that we know is that AJ Allmendinger will be running the truck race this weekend at Darlington in that 10 truck. So that's something to keep note of. But yeah, one of the full-time drivers for colleague's brand new Ram Truck Series team, and he didn't even make it 5 races. And it wasn't because of performance issues. It was because of him being a bit of a nitwit. So that's my take. But now moving on to a more positive talk. Let's talk a little bit about Darlington this upcoming weekend. I'm still getting used to the fact that the spring Darlington race is still in the month of March. We didn't start really doing that until last year, where we had a little bit of a jumble in the entire schedule. But it's not the first time they did it in the early 2000s and stuff like that. So not the first time. But yeah, so I was also going to mention that this weekend is definitely going to see a lot of Greg Biffle throwback schemes to the late Biff himself, mainly from RFK. The Biffle font will return for all three of their cars this weekend, and they will be running a Greg Biffle style scheme for each of their respective sponsors of Keselowski, Buescher, and Preece. Sam Hunt Racing in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series will also be running a throwback as well for the 26 car, which looks very like his 2011 3M scheme, which I think is just an absolutely... That's throwback scheme of the week for me, is Dean Thompson's Biffle throwback. I just think it looks absolutely beautiful. Just so another week of honoring the late Biffle, who won in Darlington, I believe, 2005, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Greg Biffle's only Darlington win? I don't fully remember it, but if someone can clarify that for me in another time, please let me know. But yeah, so definitely looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing how the trucks race at Darlington, but also looking forward to seeing how the Cup cars ran this weekend. This race will feature the 750 horsepower package, and Denny Hamlin a couple weeks ago even predicted that tire wear is definitely going to be in the play in this race. At least that's what the anticipation is, but I can't wait to see if that's truly the case. That will definitely be fun to watch. But we're getting down to the late portions of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for race picks. Now, both Adam and Emma don't have their race picks available, but I have my own available. So, yeah, let's get started with my picks. So, let's get into the weekend schedule. I should also do as well. So, just in case you people need to watch, which we all need to watch, man. I mean, what good is that? So, for the Truck Series on Friday, March 20th at 3:30 p.m., the Truck Series will practice on FS2, followed by qualifying at 4:35 p.m. on the same channel, and then the Truck Series race on Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1. For the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, their practice of qualifying will be Saturday, March 21st. Practice begins at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with qualifying following at 1:05 p.m. Both of those will be streamed on the CW app, and then the race will be taking place at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CW Sports. Then last but certainly not least, the Cup Series schedule begins on March 21st with practice at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with qualifying at 3:40 p.m. Both of those events will be streamed on Prime Video. And then Sunday, March 22nd, the Goodyear 400 from Darlington Raceway at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1. So that is your weekend schedule for the races this upcoming weekend. With that, let's get into race picks. Starting with the Truck Series race Friday night, I am going to go with the 88 truck of Ty Majeski. Majeski came close to winning this race back in 2024, and I feel like he's definitely due for a win as of late. Definitely for the fact that he's now in the 88 truck for Thor Sport Racing, and also nearly won at St. Petersburg a couple weeks ago, but fell short to Lane Riggs. But I feel good about Ty Majeski this weekend. Give me that 88 truck. For the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race, I really wanted to go for a full-time O'Reilly Series driver, but I feel like one of the part-timers, one of the Cup drivers, is definitely going to get the win. I'm not going to go with Kyle Larson, though. I'm going to go with the guy who has won in our Rally Auto Parts Series race at Darlington, the fall race of 2024, as a matter of fact. Give me the 19 car of Christopher Bell to win that race for Joe Gibbs Racing. Then, for the main event, ladies and gentlemen, the Goodyear 400 on Sunday. When I think of a driver who's been really dominant at Darlington Raceway as of late, it has been one man and one man only. And although he's had a very struggling start to the year, this would be a great race for him to get back on track and try to point his season forward in the right direction, which I think he's going to do regardless, but this is the perfect week to do it. Give me the 19 car of Chase Briscoe to win on Sunday. I believe Toyota is going to go 5 out of 6 here, and I believe the 19 car of Chase Briscoe is going to get it done on Sunday. So to recap my picks, for trucks, I have Ty Majeski. For our Rileys, I have Christopher Bell, and for the Cup Series, I have Chase Briscoe. But with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for this week's episode of Revved Up. Thank you guys so much for rejoining us this week after the week hiatus that we had the prior week. Tune in next week as we preview the paperclip short track racing at Martinsville Speedway for 400 miles. So, as always, I have been your host, Carter Leonard, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.